my mother didn't change very much. We kind of knew what the rhythm of the year was. So things like that will change, and how we are part of the support for the monarchy may change slightly. Who knows?
Behind the royal titles and formalities, there's always another story, one most people never get to see. Queen Camilla has been judged, praised, and misunderstood in equal measure. But what if someone who knows her best decided to speak up? Princess Anne has a unique perspective, and what she reveals about Camilla might just change everything you thought you knew. Anne's perspective on her relationship with Diana. Princess Anne and Princess Diana. Two royal figures, two very different personalities, and one incredibly complex relationship. For years, speculation ran wild about whether these two iconic women were friends, foes, or merely distant family members who happened to be bound by the crown. But Anne's recent candid comments have turned the spotlight onto their connection, revealing a relationship far more layered than we ever imagined. What really went on between the no-nonsense Princess Anne and the radiant yet vulnerable Diana? Anne has always been known for her pragmatic, straightforward approach to life. Unlike Diana, who often wore her heart on her sleeve, Anne rarely let the public glimpse her emotions. This difference in demeanor was one of the key factors that shaped their relationship. In her recent statements, Anne admitted that her connection with Diana was anything but simple. It wasn't a relationship of deep camaraderie, she acknowledged, but it also wasn't one of constant tension, as many seem to believe. From the outside, it might have seemed like Anne and Diana were polar opposites. Where Diana was emotional and expressive, Anne was reserved and blunt. Diana connected with people through vulnerability, while Anne, ever the stoic royal, preferred a hands-off, duty-first approach. Yet, despite their differences, Anne revealed that there was an undercurrent of mutual respect between them. A quiet acknowledgement of the struggles they both faced as women in the public eye and members of the world's most scrutinized family. The hooks of their bond lay in shared challenges, though the way they handled these challenges couldn't have been more different. Anne has long been praised for her ability to maintain a level-headed focus on her royal duties, steering clear of the tabloids and the drama. Diana, on the other hand, found herself ensnared by a media machine that both adored and tormented her. Despite this contrast, Anne recognized the weight Diana carried. "We were both under immense pressure, though in very different ways," Anne noted. "That kind of pressure changes you. It shapes your relationships and the way you handle them. But if they shared the burden of royal expectations, why didn't they grow closer?" The answer, according to Anne, lies in the emotional and familial barriers that surrounded them. The royal family's notoriously stiff and formal environment made it difficult for genuine bonds to form, even between in-laws. "There's a certain distance built into these relationships," Anne admitted. "It's not personal, it's the way things have always been done." This emotional distance was compounded by the very structure of the royal household. Diana, coming from a more open and emotional background, often struggled with the rigid protocols and unspoken rules. Anne, on the other hand, thrived within those confines. This difference created an invisible wall between the two women, one that neither of them seemed entirely able or willing to breach. Yet, even amidst these barriers, there were moments when Anne and Diana connected. Anne shared that in rare, unguarded instances, Diana would let down her public persona and speak openly about her struggles. "It wasn't something that happened often, but when it did, it was very real," Anne said. "You could see the weight she was carrying." Anne's ability to see through Diana's public image of grace and perfection gave her a unique understanding of the late princess. While the tabloids painted Diana as either a saint or a victim, Anne saw her as a woman trying to navigate an impossible situation. She wasn't just a princess in turmoil, Anne reflected. She was someone searching for her place, her identity, in a world that doesn't allow much room for individuality. However, these glimpses of vulnerability were fleeting. Anne admitted that her own reserved nature and Diana's emotional walls often kept them from forging a deeper bond. "We understood each other's struggles to an extent, but we weren't the type to sit down and pour our hearts out," Anne said. "That just wasn't how either of us operated." One of the most poignant revelations from Anne's remarks was her acknowledgement of the opportunities they missed to support each other. "Looking back, "I do wish I had done more," she confessed. "It's easy to see now where I could have reached out, but at the time, it didn't feel as straightforward." This regret is perhaps one of the most human aspects of Anne's reflections. Despite her stoicism, Anne couldn't ignore the pain. Diana endured, pain that in hindsight she wished she had addressed more directly. "You think there will always be more time to fix things, to say what needs to be said," Anne shared. But that's not always the case. Anne also touched on how the media's portrayal of her relationship with Diana complicated matters. The tabloids often depicted Anne as cold and indifferent to Diana's struggles, painting a picture of animosity that Anne insists was far from the truth. "The media fed into the idea that we were rivals, or that I didn't care," Anne said. "That was never the case, but it became part of the narrative, and there was no changing it." This distortion of their relationship only added to the strain between them. Diana, already sensitive to criticism, may have internalized these public narratives, while Anne, true to form, chose not to engage with them. "I've never been one for explaining myself in the press," Anne remarked. "But looking back, maybe it would have helped." Despite these challenges, Anne emphasized that her respect for Diana never wavered. She admired Diana's ability to connect with people on a personal level, even as she struggled with her own insecurities. "Diana had a way of making people feel seen and heard," Anne said. "That's something very few people can do, especially in the position she was in." Anne also recognized the courage it took for Diana to push back against the rigid norms of royal life. While Anne herself chose to work within the system, she respected Diana's determination to carve her own path, even when it came at great personal cost. "We handled things differently," Anne acknowledged, "but that doesn't mean I didn't admire her strength." In the end, Anne's reflections on her relationship with Diana paint a picture of two women navigating an incredibly complex dynamic. Their connection was neither entirely warm nor entirely cold. It was shaped by the unique pressures and expectations of royal life, as well as their contrasting personalities. "It's not something that can be summed up in a single headline or soundbite," Anne said. "It's much more complicated than that." These remarks give us a rare and deeply human glimpse into the often misunderstood bond between Anne and Diana. They remind us that behind the royal titles and public personas, these were two women facing extraordinary challenges, sometimes together, sometimes apart. But if they shared the burden of royal expectations, why didn't they grow closer? Anne admitted that her own reserved nature and Diana's emotional walls often kept them from forging a deeper bond. Behind the scenes of Diana's struggles. Princess Diana, often celebrated as the People's Princess, faced immense challenges behind the palace walls. Her journey was fraught with pressures, public scrutiny, and profound loneliness. Princess Anne, known for her candid nature, has occasionally provided insights into Diana's struggles, shedding light on the complexities of royal life. Joining the royal family is akin to stepping onto a stage where the world watches your every move. Diana, a young woman of just 20 when she married Prince Charles, was thrust into this intense spotlight. The expectations were immense: uphold royal traditions, engage in numerous public duties, and maintain a composed demeanor at all times. Princess Anne, having been born into royalty, was well acquainted with these demands. She once remarked on the challenges newcomers face, emphasizing that adapting to such a life requires immense resilience and support. Diana's natural charisma endeared her to the public, but it also meant that her life was under constant surveillance. Every gesture, outfit, and expression was analyzed and critiqued by the media. This relentless attention took a toll on her mental and emotional well-being. Princess Anne, who has had her share of media interactions, understood the invasive nature of such scrutiny. She noted that while public interest is part and parcel of royal duties, the intensity experienced by Diana was unprecedented and overwhelming. Despite her global fame, Diana often felt isolated within the royal family. The grandeur of the palaces couldn't mask the emotional distance she experienced. Princess Anne, known for her stoicism, observed that the royal environment can be isolating, especially for those not born into it. She acknowledged that Diana's feelings of loneliness were exacerbated by the lack of a robust support system and the pressures to conform to royal protocols without much personal guidance. Diana's battle with bulimia and her struggles with mental health were, at times, attributed to the immense pressures she faced. In her 1995 interview, she candidly spoke about her experiences, shedding light on the human side of royalty. Princess Anne, while maintaining the family's preference for privacy, recognized the importance of acknowledging such issues. She subtly hinted at the need for better mental health support within the royal framework, especially for those marrying into the family. Diana's marriage to Prince Charles was anything but private. The public was invested in their relationship, and every high and low was magnified. The revelation of Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles added to Diana's emotional turmoil. Princess Anne, Charles's sister, was reportedly aware of the complexities of their relationship. While she refrained from public commentary, her interactions suggested an understanding of the strain such situations place on individuals, especially when lived out under public scrutiny. The media's relentless pursuit of Diana contributed significantly to her distress. Paparazzi followed her every move, and tabloids often published misleading stories, adding to her sense of isolation. Princess Anne, who has had a contentious relationship with the press, empathized with Diana's plight. She once remarked on the intrusive nature of media attention, suggesting that it often crosses boundaries and overlooks the individual's well-being. In the years following Diana's tragic passing, the royal family has made efforts to adapt and modernize. Princess Anne, reflecting on her sister-in-law's legacy, acknowledged that Diana brought a human touch to the monarchy. She noted that Diana's openness about her struggles paved the way for more candid discussions about mental health and the pressures of royal life. Impact of Anne's comments. When Princess Anne opened up about her relationship with Princess Diana, the world was taken by surprise. For decades, Anne had remained quiet about her late sister-in-law, allowing the public to speculate about the dynamics between them. But with her recent comments, Anne threw a wrench into the royal family's carefully constructed image. Her unexpected honesty triggered a media frenzy that left royal fans, critics, and experts rethinking everything they thought they knew about the royal family. The immediate impact was palpable. News outlets, social media, and royal analysts pounced on her words, breaking down every sentence, every detail, to get a clearer understanding of what was really going on behind the palace walls. The media reaction to Anne's revelation was nothing short of explosive. For years, the royal family had carefully controlled their image, using public appearances and official statements to shape how they were seen. Anne's words, however, provided a raw and unfiltered insight into what life within the royal family was really like. As royal watchers pored over her every statement, it became clear that Anne's comments offered a much more complex picture of Diana's life than the one the public had been given. Anne's words took the world by storm. The fact that she openly acknowledged Diana's struggles, her own silent support for her, and the nuances of their relationship completely shifted the narrative that had been built around Diana's tragic story. For many, this was a chance to see the royal family in a new light, a family that, despite all its glitter, was not immune to the real human struggles of its members. But was this Anne's deliberate attempt to challenge the official royal narrative? Many began speculating that Anne had finally decided to speak out to set the record straight. She wasn't just answering questions, she was reshaping the story. The narrative of Diana's life, which had long been dominated by tales of loneliness and public victimhood, suddenly felt more layered. Anne's comments hinted at something deeper, an understanding of the complexities of royal life and the emotional toll it took on everyone involved. This fresh perspective struck a chord with many, especially those who had long felt that Diana's legacy was too simplified. Anne's openness about her relationship with Diana wasn't just surprising, it was risky. For decades, the royal family has been known for controlling their public image with precision. The British monarchy has always been careful about what they say and how they say it, especially when it comes to sensitive topics. In the past, comments that went off script or revealed too much of their inner workings have been quickly reined in. So, what does it mean that Anne chose to speak out now? Her candidness has huge implications for the royal family's ability to control its narrative. Anne, usually reserved and no-nonsense, was never one to make waves. But her recent revelations suggested that the royal family's grip on their public image might not be as tight as it once was. By exposing the hidden complexities of her relationship with Diana, Anne inadvertently opened a door that many had previously believed shut. What other truths might come to light in the future? Could more members of the royal family follow Anne's lead and share their own perspectives? The royal family's carefully curated image has always been about perfection, an idealized vision of what it means to be part of this legendary family. The reality, as Anne's comments show, is far messier. For years, the media and public have bought into this polished version of the royals, always looking glamorous, always in control. But Anne's comments peeled back some of the layers, revealing the emotional toll that comes with being a member of this institution. Does this mark a shift in how the royal family will be perceived moving forward? Anne's willingness to offer this kind of honesty suggests that the royal family may be undergoing a shift in how they manage their public personas. If one member can speak out like this, could others follow suit? This opens the door to a new era of royal transparency, where personal struggles are no longer off limits. So, why did Anne decide to speak out now? Her comments were not only candid, but also incredibly personal. They shed light on a side of her relationship with Diana that few knew about. Was this simply a moment of reflection, or was there something more at play? Was Anne speaking from the heart, or was there a deeper motivation behind her decision to break the silence? One possibility is that Anne's comments were a response to the growing public fascination with Diana's legacy. The way Diana's life was portrayed, especially after her tragic death, left many unanswered questions. The constant focus on Diana's personal struggles, her marriage to Charles, and her battles with the press often overshadowed the more nuanced aspects of her life. By speaking out, Anne may have wanted to present a more complete picture, a view of Diana that was less about the tragedy and more about the woman she truly was. Perhaps Anne wanted to protect her late sister-in-law's memory from being reduced to just a series of tabloid headlines. Could Anne have been trying to correct the narrative that Diana was merely a victim of her circumstances? It's possible that Anne wanted to highlight Diana's strength, her humanity, and her ability to push back against the very institution she was part of. Anne's comments were not just about the past, they were about setting the record straight for future generations, so they would remember Diana for the right reasons. Another possibility is that Anne was simply reflecting on the emotional journey she had been on since Diana's death. Had Anne always carried a sense of guilt about not being able to support Diana more? Her recent comments about Diana's struggles, especially how Anne recognized Diana's inner turmoil after her death, suggested that Anne had long been wrestling with the idea that perhaps she could have done more. Maybe this was her way of finally processing those emotions and offering an apology of sorts, a way to say, "I saw your pain and I understood it, but I didn't always know how to help." There's also a chance that Anne's comments were motivated by a desire to shine a light on the truth behind the royal family's image. Was she trying to remind the world that the royals are human too? This could be Anne's attempt to pull back the curtain on an institution that often seems out of reach and perfect. The royal family, for all its wealth and glamour, is made up of people who, like everyone else, struggle with their own challenges, relationships, and pressures. Anne's openness could be seen as a quiet call for empathy, a reminder that, despite their royal titles, they are not immune to the same difficulties everyone else faces. In a way, Anne's comments were a perfect storm of honesty, emotion, and timing. Whether she intended to shift the public's perception of Diana or simply wanted to tell her side of the story, there's no denying that her words have forever changed how we view the royals. What's more, her candidness has likely opened the door for other royals to speak out in the future. For the first time in a long while, the royal family's tightly held image of perfection is no longer as unassailable as it once was. In the end, what Anne has done is more than just provide a glimpse into the royal family's inner workings. She's given us a much-needed dose of reality. Her willingness to break free from the royal mold and share her honest thoughts on Diana's life, struggles, and legacy has left an indelible mark on the way we perceive the royals. The family we once viewed as a symbol of flawless grace and control is, in reality, a family of people who have faced their own personal battles, just like the rest of us. Is this the beginning of a new chapter for the royal family? One where the lines between public persona and private life blur? Only time will tell. But for now, Princess Anne's rare and candid remarks have reshaped the conversation around the royal family. One honest word at a time. Anne's views on Diana and Charles's marriage. When Princess Anne spoke candidly about the marriage between Princess Diana and Prince Charles, it stunned the world. For decades, the royal family has been tightly guarded, protecting their private lives behind carefully curated images. Anne's comments, however, peeled back the layers of a highly scrutinized relationship, offering a fresh perspective on what really went on behind the palace walls. What if the truth about their marriage wasn't just about infidelity and tragedy? What if there was far more at play than we ever knew? The public narrative surrounding Diana and Charles's marriage has always been a dramatic one, fueled by tabloid headlines and media speculation. We've all heard the story. A fairy tale wedding that quickly soured, a prince who was unfaithful, and a princess who struggled to cope with royal life. The scandal of Charles's relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, Diana's battle with mental health, and the overwhelming pressures of royal duty were all seen as the key factors leading to their split. But Princess Anne, who was closer to both of them than most of the world, suggested that the picture we've been given is far too simple. Did the media get it all wrong? Anne's viewpoint challenges the media's long-standing narrative of victimhood and infidelity. It's easy to point fingers and blame Charles for the collapse of the marriage. After all, the affair with Camilla was highly publicized, and Diana became the media darling, the fragile victim caught in a loveless marriage. But Anne, ever the straight shooter, brought a more balanced view to the table. According to her, the problems in Diana and Charles's marriage went far deeper than just personal betrayal. Could it be that both Diana and Charles were trapped in a system that demanded too much from them, leading to a toxic, unmanageable situation? For Anne, the royal family's expectations were suffocating. As the heir to the throne, Charles was under immense pressure to uphold the monarchy's image. He wasn't just a man struggling with his personal emotions. He was carrying the weight of an institution that required him to play a role far beyond what anyone could truly understand. Diana, on the other hand, was expected to be the perfect royal wife, a flawless mother, and an emblem of grace. But the truth, as Anne sees it, was that the marriage was always doomed from the start. Imagine being in a relationship where the expectations placed on you by the world are so overwhelming that you can't even be yourself. That's the kind of pressure Diana and Charles were under. Anne emphasized that the media often oversimplified their struggles, focusing on the affair and Diana's emotional pain. But for Anne, there was so much more to the story. The marriage was a complex web of expectations, unspoken needs, and constant scrutiny. Anne wasn't excusing Charles's infidelity, but she believed that it wasn't the only factor contributing to the breakdown of their relationship. What if their separation wasn't just about one person's fault, but rather a systemic issue that no one could control? Anne's comments have forced the public to reconsider the way they view the royal family's personal dynamics. We've been fed a story of Diana's pain and Charles's betrayal, but Anne's perspective reveals that the situation was far more layered. Instead of seeing Diana as merely a victim and Charles as a villain, Anne challenges us to look at the broader context of their struggles. A marriage not just filled with personal pain, but one also shaped by the immense responsibilities of royalty. What if the real story wasn't about infidelity, but about two people desperately trying to live up to expectations that were far beyond their control? And there you have it, a rare glimpse into the side of Queen Camilla that few ever talk about. What do you think of Princess Anne's perspective? Does it change how you see Camilla and her role in the royal family? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more insights like this, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.